Hey there, it's Olivia's fan here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and we are halfway through the year, if you can believe it, and so it's already time to do the mid-year freak-out tag, which I have done for a couple of years on this channel before, and I'm ready to do it again. I have read over 75 books so far this year. I do not know the exact number, but that means I've got plenty of good books that I can answer these questions with, so let's get right down to the questions. First question is, what is your best book that you've read so far this year? And for this one, it was very easy for me to answer. I would say Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, a classic. I really loved this when I recently read it, and it's about this man who is white, who is wealthy, who is living in Paris, and he is gay, and he is very homophobic. He's got a lot of internalized homophobia, and while he's in Paris he meets Giovanni and he starts to have a love affair with Giovanni, but of course that puts him up against a lot of the internalized homophobia that he's holding within him, and that kind of manifests as he's not able to be himself and express his love properly. What does that do to a person? And that is what this book is about. It's a struggle to read because there's so much self-hatred in this, and that self-hatred kind of spews over into the ways in which he treats people around him, especially the women in his life. And it's such a complex book, and it's one that needs a lot of care unpicking, but is just so heavy on the metaphor and on the meaning, and James Baldwin really did that. He really managed to write something incredibly complex, incredibly short, incredibly to the point, but also incredibly emotional and moving as well. The best sequel you've read so far in 2025, and for that I'm actually had a lot more choice than I have had in previous years because I've actually been reading my sequels, but I've chosen a middle grade, and that is Skandar and the Phantom Rider by A.F. Steadman, which is the second book in the Skandar and the Unicorn Thief series. So this is a series that is a middle grade book where unicorns exist and unicorns have riders, and children are sent to this island to touch eggs, and if the eggs start to hatch then that is their unicorn, and they are set as protectors of this world, but they also have a lot of training to do, and so they end up in a boarding school as they learn and train. And in the first book there's this villain called the Weaver who is corrupting the unicorns, and that's kind of the danger in the first book. But the second book is such a good sequel. It takes the overarching plot and it continues on that trajectory and continues on that path. You get to see so much brilliant character growth from Skandar, who is our main character, but also from all of Skandar's friends who make up his found family. And I love the trope of found family, so I really enjoyed seeing these children come together and rally around each other and support each other. But even though you see Skandar having his journey, by no means are his characters side characters. You get to see that they're having their own plots and own journeys alongside his, and he supports them in theirs and they support him in his, and they go through their difficulties and their times together, and it's all just so emotionally beautiful and very mature in how this middle grade is making a plot that surprised even me, and I'm pretty sure it's going to knock the children off their seats, but also just extensive world building and such lovely messaging in it. The side characters are diverse, so you've got black characters, you've got an anxiety rep, you've got so much other stuff happening in the background as well, so I really just like how this series has come all together, and that was a really good sequel. I cannot wait to read further into the series. The third question is a new release that you haven't got to yet but you'd like to, and as of me filming this, like 2 days ago, The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater came out. Maggie Stiefvater is the author of The Raven Cycle, which is one of my most favourite series ever, and so her transitioning into writing an adult novel that's got some elements of magical realism in it is something I'm very interested in. The plot sounds really unique, so I'm not quite sure how to describe it or how to explain it, but hopefully once I've read it I'll be able to better review it and talk about it with all of you. The most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I think it's September or it might be October, but we are getting Byrne by Simone. So of course I was going to choose a Simone book, but yes, we're getting Byrne by Simone, and I am just so excited. You cannot believe how excited I am. I want this book in my hands right now. I'm so excited. So Byrne is the conclusion to the Lioness trilogy, and if you've read Simone, you know that her conclusions to trilogies are off the charts. They just devour, and this series, every single book in this series has ended in a cliffhanger. There was a massive cliffhanger at the end of book 1, and the cliffhanger at the end of book 2 is even bigger, and so of course I'm just frothing at the mouth to have this last book in my hands. It's also following, this is a bit of a, is it a polyamorous relationship? Is it just cheating? It's hard to tell, but it follows these 3 characters, and so the third character, whose point of view this last book is going to be really heavily featuring, is the most complex and hard to understand character, and I can't wait to be in his mind and to be able to better understand him. I've been craving this book since last year, and every single newsletter that Simone puts out, she's teasing it, and I just want it in my hands. I'm so excited for this release. Then the question is, what is your biggest disappointment of the year? And that goes to Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I read sometimes books that are hyped just because they are hyped, and sometimes that hype pays off. I'm currently reading Lessons in Chemistry and it's going swell, but sometimes that hype is really a massive letdown, and Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow was one of those huge letdowns. It's supposed to be this lovely friendship story about these 2 characters who make a video game together, and they have a whole career together, and it's about their friendship and their highs and their lows throughout the process. Nothing about this book screamed friendship to me. For most of the book, they are either arguing or not talking to each other or disagreeing with each other, and I don't know about you, but that is not the greatest friendship story ever told. Another situation in this book is something I feel very passionate about, which is disability representation, and I feel like in most of the reviews, the rave reviews that I've seen, people don't really talk about the fact that Sam, one of our 2 main characters, is disabled, and he is. And I just really am sick and tired of the kind of disability representation where characters hate their disability vehemently, and they kind of just imagine it doesn't exist, and of course that makes their disability worse, because who has a disability and can imagine it doesn't exist without treating it or without taking the care that they need and it gets better? Like, no one. So it's just the kind of representation that gives me trauma flashbacks to when I read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I just don't know many disabled people who treat their disability that way, and yet the able-bodied authors just love to portray disabled people that way, and it's just getting on my last nerve. So that bothered me, the lack of friendship bothered me, and then I just think the plot was really boring and slow. And so I've got a full review coming with a lot more of my thoughts on this book, but if I had to summarize it in 3 things, those are the 3 things that made this one of the biggest disappointments of the year so far. But now we get to go to something more pleasant, and that is the biggest surprise. So one of the biggest surprises for me, well, I've got 2, and they're both sci-fi books. One of them is Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a big epic sci-fi that involves alien spiders, and I was worried that my arachnophobia was going to make me unable to enjoy this book to its full capability, but that was not actually a problem because of the way that it is written, because of the fact that the plot was just so good and the world building was just so good and the characterization was just so good that I was having such a great time that descriptions of the spiders didn't have a moment to make me feel scared. So I really love Children of Time, and that was a big surprise because I really worried that my arachnophobia was going to take over. And the other big surprise was Welcome to Forever by Nathan Tavares, which is another sci-fi book. And this one is about what happens when your memories and your mind can be edited and changed and adapted, and all of the capabilities that living in such a world can bring. And I think the plot to that one was again very complex, very grounded in its science. It had a very good plot and storyline, and a married couple relationship at the center of it, a gay married couple relationship at the center of it, that really made the story intriguing and interesting to follow through and through. Both of these are over 500-page sci-fi books that really fed my brain in the way that I want them to. And so they were big surprises for me, because sometimes I think I'm not that big of a sci-fi reader. I read sci-fi and I do enjoy it, but I don't read a lot of it, and then I just remember that I do, and I love it. For new favourite author, either a debut author or a new to you author, I've chosen Shani Akilah, who is the author of For Such a Time as This, which is a short story collection. People who are all in the same friends group, and they are all members of the African or the Caribbean diaspora, and each short story kind of deals with a different theme, a different topic. One of them dealt with endometriosis, one of them dealt with grief, one of them dealt with cultural identity, one of them dealt with romance, and they all kind of focus on something else. And each and every single one of those short stories was a very good short story. I can't think of one short story in the collection that I think that wasn't good. Not a single one. I felt very seen reading this collection. As someone who's part of the Caribbean diaspora, it really shocked me when during my grieving process I read a short story that was kind of set in the exact same place that my grandma is from, and it was also the Jamaican diasporic story, and it was just very accurate and just really just hit me in the chest. It really hit home, and that kind of dragged it out of me a lot, emotionally dragged a lot out of me. But also there were many other short stories where I felt that kind of black exhaustion, and I felt that kind of feeling before, and I was like, there it is, I recognize it, I see it, and the writing really brought me there. Some of the short stories are written in second person, and it also helped me remember how much I love the second person kind of writing style. So that short story collection was really made Shani Akilah an author that I want to revisit as soon as she puts out another book. So then we get some more difficult questions. So newest fictional crush. I don't think I've been crushing on characters that much this year. I do tend to usually find one or two that I crush on, so I'm not sure what happened. But there is one recent character who I've kind of fallen for, and that's in the graphic novel Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo and Dani Pendergast. Because it's a visual one, you get to see the Darkling's mother, and oh my goodness, her young version, amazing, gorgeous. She is cutthroat, she is ruthless. She may not be a very good mother, but she is super hot. So she is my newest crush, because I was like, I now have a thing for the Darkling and a thing for the Darkling's mother. I don't know how to feel about that. This is not an official question, but I did want to put it in there, and that is favourite ship. Because even though I haven't had many crushes, I've had lots of couples that I kind of ship them together. And for that, my latest ship is in a book called Hot Cop by Simone and Laurelin Paige. And in this one, you're following Liv. She is someone who wants to be pregnant, she wants to have a baby, but she doesn't want to have a man. And there's this like hot cop who's also very like a bachelor, he's very much a bachelor, and they kind of strike up a deal. They're going to have as much sex together as they possibly can so that she can get pregnant, and then they're going to go their separate ways. And one of the things I loved about these two characters is how much chemistry they had. I was really feeling that romance between them before they even knew what they were getting in for, before they knew that they were falling in love with each other. And their chemistry and their banter and just the way that they cared for each other and interacted with each other, even when they were both so insistent that it was a hookup and nothing else, I felt the heat, I felt the flames, and I really liked them as a couple aside from the storyline. So I ship those people the most from the books that I've read so far this year. Newest fictional friend, your favourite character. And for this I'm actually going to choose two characters, and these are characters from Thornhedge by Kingfisher. I really love Toadling, and I also really love Halim. These are two characters that you meet. One of them is this kind of magical human entity being who can turn into a toad very quickly, as why she's called Toadling, and she is just very anxious. She's just so gentle. She really wants to do the best by everybody. She struggles to say no to people. She's very much a people pleaser, and that can lead her into all sorts of different things, but she's just so soft and so lovely that I really liked her character. And I also really liked Halim, who is this Muslim knight who is not very good at being a knight. He doesn't want to kill people, he doesn't want to be violent, he just wants to be at peace and for everyone to be happy and protect the people that he cares about. And he was so soft-hearted and funny that I really liked his character too. So if I could be best friends to anybody, I would like to be best friends with Halim and Toadling, please. And is a book that made you cry. I'm not actually a crier. I don't cry when I read my books. However, I always do this thing where I internally cry or I internally move. So if I was someone who was a crier with books, this is what I would cry at. And for that, I've chosen Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl by Joya Goffney. This is a young adult book following a black teen who is the preacher man's daughter, and she is trying to sleep with her boyfriend for the first time, but she's having a very difficult time because she has vaginismus. Her boyfriend breaks up with her, and she's trying to find a way to cure her vaginismus so that she'll be able to sleep with him and get her boyfriend back. There's a lot more of this book. There's a lot more to this book than just that plot line, because while it is dealing with vaginismus, it's also dealing with self-worth, beauty. There's a lot in here about faith, given that she is a Christian and her dad is a preacher man, and there's a lot about friendship and family, and I really liked how it tackled all of those topics. But for me personally, I always feel very soft when we deal with faith as someone who is a Christian, and you have books that critique it, but also books that show how it can work in ways outside of the rigid idea that people have about Christianity and faith and purity especially. So seeing books that kind of tackle and delve into those subjects always make me feel very emotionally vulnerable. And I particularly feel vulnerable whenever we get to see queer Christians or queerness being accepted by Christians in books, because I've read a lot of books where queerness is something that is seen as evil by the Christians and those who are believing in the books, or it's about how the church has hurt a lot of the queer people. And I think those stories are very valid and very important and need to be told, but also as somebody who is a Christian and also an ally to the queer community, there's just nothing gives me more hope and more happiness, and also makes me more emotional, than when I see the queerness community and the Christian faith community go hand in hand. And I got to see that in Confessions of an Ill-Aged Good Girl. It's not the main point, it's not like the biggest part of the book, but it is probably the thing, other than for such a time as this, during my grieving process, that just punched me in the heart, like, whew, knocked me out. So that's the book that, yeah, made me cry. Is what book made you happy? And there's two books that I've chosen, and these are books that just made me happy because they exist, because they are so good that I had no complaints and I had the best experiences reading them. So the first one is When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. I've talked about this book a lot and raved about it. It's a Polish mythology book about somebody who is searching for a particular flower. He needs it for a spell, and you don't know what that spell is, but you go with him on his journey to get that flower and what he does with it once he has it. I think this book is perfect. There's not a single word I would change, there's not a single plot point I would change. I just loved it. The characterization, Veronica Roth's decadent writing, the storyline, the message behind it all when you get to the end, and the lovely, beautiful novella length of it. Delicious. I loved it, and it made me so happy to read that book. Another book that made me incredibly happy to read is Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark, which is an Afrofuturism horror fantasy mashup, which I read right after watching Sinners. It's the perfect book if you want that Sinners vibe but in a book form, and it gave me so much empowerment, and it just showed me what good Afrofuturism could look like, and again, a perfect novella length. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Both of these books are very different and they both made me incredibly happy. For the most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year, nothing is more beautiful to me than the Illumicrate version of Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor, which was the first book in their Starbright box. There's nothing more beautiful to me than seeing Black disabled wheelchair user on the front cover when that is what the book is about. Just give it to me. Give me more wheelchair users on covers, please and thank you. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? For this question, I typically choose 3, and this year I didn't actually have things that I needed to read, so I made this quite easy for myself. The first one I've chosen is Batman Zero Year. This is a Batman comic that I have been reading since about September last year, so I've been reading this very slowly and very gradually. It's because I'm borrowing it from Simi that it's not been a priority while I have a TBR challenge going on, because it will not affect my TBR challenge when I finish it. I've only got 1 or 2 more chapters left and I am dragging my way through it. I'm loving it. I'm just taking a really long time with it. Sometimes I do this with books. It's really embarrassing and not good for the book. So I just need to finish it once and for all. So that's the number 1 book I need to finish this year. Number 2 is quite an easy one. It's Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. My best friend is coming to visit me in July and we will be buddy reading it while she is here, because we both love Talia Hibbert and we've never buddy read a book before, which is shocking to both of us. So I put that because I definitely will be reading it this year. And then the last book I've chosen is Afterlove by Tanya Byrne, and this is because it's the oldest proof that I own on my unread TBR. I'm ashamed to say that it is a proof that has stuck around on my TBR for so long. It's not in my oldest top 10, and I do give a lot of attention to reading my top 10 oldest books on my TBR because I know that they've been there for a long time and I try to tick them off. But sometimes I need to think about my proofs, which thankfully they're not in my top 10 oldest books. They're much further down the line, which is lovely, but shouldn't be there at all. So I need to read that one before the end of the year. Then the last question is favorite favourite book community member, and I don't really like this question. I've got a lot of booktube friends. I'm not going to choose a favourite. It's not going to happen. I'm so sorry. But what I do instead is that when I answer this question, I choose a new to me channel that I've been watching within the past year of me filming this, and I give them a spotlight and a shout out. It doesn't matter if they are a small channel or a big channel, as long as they are new to me. And for that, I'm going to mention Rothlan. She has a channel which is called Reading with Rothlan, and I recently discovered her channel in the past year or so. I think she commented on one of my videos, and then I often check out the videos of people who comment on my own, and I just started watching her channel. She reads a lot of romance and she reads a lot of thrillers, and she also reads other genres too, but I've really been enjoying kind of listening to her talk about her romance books and her thrillers, especially. She also reads dark romance, which is something I'm getting into a little bit more on her recommendation. I've picked up some Frida McFadden thrillers, so I'm looking forward to trying that new to me author on her rec. And also she's kind of convinced me that I need to get back into Ali Hazelwood's books. So yes, I've really enjoyed kind of watching her channel, watching her reviews, and seeing what she's up to. There's also plenty of exciting things that are going to be happening over there, because she is going to be building her own library. But thank you so much for joining me for the mid-year freakout tag. Please let me know in the comment section down below what is the best book you've read so far in this first half of the year. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!